Hi and welcome to today's workplace series. Today we are talking about how to work with difficult people. Many years ago, I worked with someone who took an instant dislike to me in our interactions. They were rude, abrupt, and just generally unhelpful. I never found out why. I never got to the reason for their behaviour, but I did find a way to work around it. How did I do this? My approach, the opposite to theirs. I went out of my way to be kind, friendly, helpful. Over time, I found that their frostiness started to thaw. And while we never became friends, the working relationship certainly improved. There's no doubt we all have people in our personal and professional life who we find challenging. We might label them precious, difficult, or hard work. The typical approach to managing or working with people like that is to try and avoid them. Or perhaps you might find a way to kind of work around it. Now, sometimes this can work in the short term, but it's not an effective long-term strategy. Instead, your strategy starts with spending more time with them. When you spend more time with them, you can better understand their perspectives, what motivates them, what drives their behaviour. This approach leverages the advice of Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, who said, and I quote, "Seek first to understand and then to be understood." End of quote. We all interpret the world and what's happening through the lens of our own experience. Consequently, it's often effortless to misinterpret a person's intent or think we just know what they're thinking or why they're behaving in a certain way. All of that is laden with assumptions. In contrast, when we seek to understand, we suspend that judgment. We drop the labels. We get curious, open-minded, interested in them, all of which puts us in a far better position to cultivate a healthy relationship. You want to listen first, talk later. People want to feel that they've been heard and that their needs have been listened to. When they don't, they'll take one of two approaches. They'll either just completely withdraw from the conversation or find a way to destabilize the conversation or aggravate it in some way. In contrast, when someone feels heard, they feel valued, that they matter to you. And that's because they think that their point of view has been considered and that you're interested in what they want to say. Now, of course, you want this to be genuine. When you listen effectively, you are genuinely interested. What's said, what's unsaid. You're seeking to understand their perspective, their needs, and you listen with empathy and compassion. This means you ask questions and seek to clarify what you've heard before you share your ideas and before you provide a solution. By doing this, you're acknowledging how they feel and you're taking time to recognize what they need. You also want to investigate your reaction. When you feel frustrated or annoyed by the actions of someone else, it's essential to challenge that immediate response. A reactive response, when someone says something and you kind of do that just mode, that reactive response, it's not done from the wisest mindset. It can harm not just your health, but relationships and your leadership brand. In contrast, a considered response, a wise response, is one where you are naturally curious about what's happening. And not just what's happening in the conversation, but what's happening within you. Why are you getting triggered in a certain way? Why are you wanting to react? Why are you wanting to behave in that way? Get really curious. This isn't about ignoring how you feel. You need to acknowledge and accept your emotions. Your feelings are real, but you want to make sense of them. And by making sense of them, you acknowledge, you accept. And in that acceptance, in many cases, the cause of the frustration is less important than the meaning that you have placed on what this all means and then what you choose to do about it. Once you've got this understanding, you're better placed to then know how to respond and what action to take. So next time you come across a person at work or in your personal life who you find difficult or precious, ask yourself these following questions. 1, why am I feeling like this? 2, why does it matter to me? 3, what meaning am I giving this situation? 4, explore the alternative. What else could it mean? And then lastly, what would a wise response be? As you work through and answer those questions, you'll find the best approach. You'll also learn more about yourself and the other person. This approach doesn't mean you step away from your values and you don't stand up for yourself and what you believe in. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. You still need to set boundaries. But it also means that you're open to the perspectives of others and you recognize that you don't hold the license on being right. When you stop reacting and take the time to ponder, reflect, and respond, you'll find more meaning, deeper relationships, and better outcomes. You have to challenge yourself. So as part of this, reflect on your role. What part might you be contributing to the dynamic? Consider, are you really bringing your best to the relationship, or are there times when you're adding fuel to the fire? Do you need to be more mindful of the impact that you're having on them? Are you expecting them to give more than you're willing to give? And are you putting enough effort into the relationship? Look, all good relationships have boundaries, and those boundaries outline what matters, what's acceptable, and how you work and connect with each other. Do you know their boundaries? Do they know your boundaries? Have you even set boundaries? For example, do you have an agreement about how you're going to respond to work outside of standard working hours? Do you have agreements about how you're going to share work, how you're going to manage overload, how you're going to talk together constructively when issues arise? As you think about all of this, I'm going to leave you with the wise words of the Nobel Prize-winning scientist Rita Levi-Montalcini. And she said, above all, don't fear difficult moments. The best comes from them. End of quote. Now, while her comments were made in a different context, they're very relevant when it comes to building relationships. Good relationships are the cornerstone of a healthy and thriving workplace. Everyone needs to own their part and be willing to step into those difficult moments. Take care. I'll see you next week.